If I were to tell young kids one good piece of advice nowadays, it would be choose your friends really wisely. And the reason I say that is because when you're inexperienced and you're young, the decisions you make about who you socialize with, they're often made without giving a whole lot of thought to what the actual ramifications of that could possibly be, because you don't know. But the truth is, if you hang out with the wrong people, what happens is you start to get familiar with their thinking. So it doesn't matter if you're 15 or 25. If you start hanging out with people who think it's okay to get high, or they think it's okay to steal or sleep around, or whatever their thing is, and you get familiar with that kind of thinking, eventually you're going to start doing what they do. And when you start doing what they do, you start reaping the consequences of the activities that those things bring. You can take a life that's pretty decent and you can become miserable overnight by making bad choices. And sometimes the consequences of making bad choices last a long time. They can affect you mentally. You can go from being a really fairly happy person to being miserable all the time because of self-inflicted stupidity. And I would warn kids, you need to think about when you meet somebody who's interesting, don't ignore red flags to try to see the good side of people. You'll pay for it in the end, because your gut instinct is there for one reason, and that's to give you that hunch to see things that may not be obvious by other measurements, you know. If you don't be careful and think about things like, well, is this person healthy? Does this person have good relationships with his parents? Does he have legal trouble? You know, does he have a suspended license? Is he stoned all the time? Whatever it is, if you start hanging out with that person, you're going to become familiar with that kind of thinking, and you're going to think it's okay. And it's not okay. Those things all have consequences, and they bring ramifications, and they're not always pleasant. You know, kids like to rebel against their parents. They don't want me to have fun. They don't want you to have fun. You don't get it. It has nothing to do with having fun. It's about helping you avoid major pitfalls that can happen when you make poor choices. Everything you do in your life is a choice, and every choice you make has consequences, and every one of those consequences is displayed somehow in your life, whether it's psychological or emotional or mental or financial. You know, your thoughts and your habits create your circumstances, and your circumstances are your life. That's the external manifestation of your internal condition. So if you have a life that looks like crap, well, maybe there's something wrong inside your head that's producing that life. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest shortcuts to messing your life up is hanging out with the wrong people. You have to be very careful who you get advice from. You have to be careful who you listen to and give any merit at all. Because if you look up to somebody in any way and they're actually full of bad advice, you might take it. And if you take it, you might end up paying for that. And then suddenly you're the one that's miserable, not them. You see, you get what I'm saying? Who you hang out with is epic. You know, there's an old saying, show me who your friends are and I'll show you who you are. There's something to that. You surround yourself with like-minded people. So if you want to be the type of person that has a good life, you have to surround yourself with people who have good, healthy thinking and have the kind of life that you want. So be really careful. If you're young and you meet this person who's just fun to be around and they're always a good time, yeah, they got problems with A or B or C or whatever it happens to be, you need to pay attention to that part, not that they're fun. There's a lot of things that are fun. Friendships for amusement are fairly superficial. And it's really hard to find, I mean, I'm in my 50s and it's really hard to find real friends. I can think of people that I would call real friends in my entire life. I could count them on one hand. But I've had tons of buddies, and I've had a lot of good times with a lot of people. Some of them are dead, some of them are in jail. Some of them are sick. So, you know, just this. But those weren't real friendships. That was just companionship for amusement. My point is, be very careful who you spend your time around, because they will rub off on you. And when you get familiar with their thinking, maybe you're with somebody who just has a really bad temper and you start having fits when you get upset because you see them do it and you can identify, so you start doing it. And then suddenly you're the guy that's having fits all the time. Well, you may not be friends with him in 5 years. You're still gonna have that bad habit. So you need to be careful who you socialize with. That's one of the things I would tell young people.